This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Public Security Minister Avi Dichter narrowly escaped injury from a Palestinian sniper near the Gaza border today. But Dichter's bureau chief, Mati Gil, was not as lucky. Gil, who was with the minister, sustained moderate wounds to the groin when a terrorist opened fire on Givat Nazmit, an area west of the Negev town of Sderot and adjacent to the Gaza security fence. IBA's Dennis Zinn brings us the details.
This is the elevated lookout point just outside the northern Gaza Strip, where Interior Security Minister and the Board of Governors of the Canada-Israel Committee were standing when the shooting started. The minister ordered the group to lie on the ground and then crawled to the nearby military position for cover. However, aide to the minister, Mati Gil, was hit in the groin by a bullet and could not move. An IDF medic from the unit deployed at the site rushed to the wounded man and stopped the bleeding. Gil was evacuated to Barzilai Hospital in Ashkelon, where his condition was described light to moderate.
He had a gunshot wound through his lower abdomen and pelvis. His condition is stable now. He is conscious, and he's now undergoing CT and other X-rays in order to evaluate his condition now.
Soon after the shooting, the Hamas organization claimed responsibility for the attack, announcing that their target was actually the internal security minister. The spokesman said that the organization acquired intelligence that Dichter would be in the area, but admitted they did not know exactly where.
I don't know if it's snipers or any other people, but it was for about 10 minutes. Right at the beginning, one of the Israelis got injured and was treated immediately by other Israelis that were there. The Canadian group behaved terrific, as if they are under fire in Canada every day. They were right away on the floor, and after giving an order, they crawled towards the military position and were there until the end of the event.
Dichter did not appear ruffled by the incident. He said, perhaps ironically, that he had brought the Canadian group to the area to get a first-hand view of the predicament of the Israeli communities surrounding the Gaza Strip. Dennis Zinn, IBA News.
Dr. Michael Esserman is on the board of directors of the Canada-Israel Committee and was with Minister Dichter during the attack this morning. He joins us now live from our Tel Aviv studio. How did the minister seem following the attack?
Well, he seemed very calm. He was very concerned about his assistant. His security detail wanted him to leave the area right away, and he insisted on seeing his assistant into the ambulance and stayed with him for a while before he himself left with his security guards.
تمكن المقاومون الفلسطينيون من استهداف وزير الأمن في كيان الاحتلال الإسرائيلي في دختر.
The Palestinian resistance fighters managed to target the Israeli Minister of the Interior, Avi Dichter, while he was on a tour to Mir'am settlement across from Gaza. The resistance fighters opened fire with machine guns against him, hitting his bureau chief, Mati Gil. The Islamic resistance movement Hamas and Al-Aqsa Protectors, an armed group in the Fatah movement, claimed responsibility for the attack.
هكذا بدا المشهد من قطاع غزة.
This is how the location of the incident looked like from Gaza. These resistance fighters had a clear sight.
العدة جاهزة والهدف أيضا، وفي انعطاف نوعي
The equipment was ready, and so was the target. Following a new trend, a videotape was recorded to document the operation, which was later podcasted by the resistance factions. It took only a few seconds before the Minister of Interior, Avi Dikter, and his bureau chief, Mati Gil, were hit. The two men were only centimeters away from each other when the bullets were shot from Gaza. Regardless of who was transported to the hospital, the result can only mean one thing. The Palestinian resistance has hit one of the Israeli symbols.
There were about 20 people around when all of a sudden gunfire came from the Palestinian side. Then there was a gunfire exchange that continued for 10 minutes.
Here are more details. Dikter and his staff were accompanying a Jewish delegation from Canada on a tour to inspect a military location in the Mer Am settlement when they were targeted by a wave of bullets. This operation was qualitatively different by all standards. It represents a new achievement by the resistance in breaching Israeli security. This resistance has once again proven its ability to target and hit, despite the walls and all other security measures.
This is a qualitative operation in which a Zionist security barrier was penetrated and important officials that have been terrorizing our Palestinian people were reached. Without a doubt, the resistance is always ready to confront all the challenges facing our Palestinian people.
Without a doubt, this operation cannot be separated from the war that was launched by the occupation soldiers against the Palestinian people. The Palestinians who have been targeted day and night are left only with the option of resistance by any means.
When the Israeli government stopped providing Gaza with gas, Olmert sarcastically suggested to the Palestinians to walk instead. They had to comply under the siege, weighing heavily on their shoes and wearing them out. The demand for new shoes has increased, but there is no supply. Those benefiting most from the situation are the shoe repairers, even though the siege has caused their materials to dwindle. Zuhair Saqallah reports from Gaza.
It is normal to get new shoes at least twice a year, but in Gaza there is no escape from wearing old shoes until they lose all their distinguishing features. You can search for a shoe in your size for a long time, but all of your attempts will fail. The Israeli siege has even reached footwear.
Some customers come to me with broken shoes. They can't find their shoe size. So I need to sew it together, stick half a heel, or find some kind of solution to the shoes because they can't find their size.
The shoes displayed in some stores entice the customers, but when a particular size is requested for a child or an adult, the answer is, we don't have it. So the person goes back to his old, worn-out pair. He gets them refurbished by the cobblers, using their scarce materials of threads, nails, and glue.
My daughter's shoes broke. I searched the whole market but didn't find her size. So I got them fixed, but a week later they broke again. I couldn't find anything, so I went to the thrift stores and looked everywhere, but still couldn't find her size.
The proper base materials are not available, no thread or glue. Many mending materials are not available.
The Israeli siege shut all doors to life in Gaza, but it opened the door to more work for cobblers, whom people seek out to avoid walking barefoot. The feet of the residents of Gaza are in danger. They lost their freedom of movement, and now they have lost their shoes as well. They might continue walking in their old shoes, or they might just walk barefoot when they give up on a cobbler bringing them out of their crisis. Zuhair Saqallah, Dubai TV, Gaza.
زهير ساقلة تلفزيون دبي غزة.
The International Symposium on Fighting Terrorism in North Africa is taking place in Algeria. Experts and specialists from Africa and the West present new experiments and strategic studies towards combining efforts to find ways of containing the phenomenon of terrorism. They aim to produce a working plan based on early warning through the exchange of information as a way to fight terror before it takes place.
Anti-terrorism specialists and experts from North Africa, the coastal countries, the U.S. and Europe met to share experiences and to discuss new studies on fighting terrorism. They discussed the exchange of information and early warning tactics as ways of containing the phenomenon and stopping it from spreading and causing danger.
This is an opportunity to exchange important ideas between African and international experts on how to fight terrorism. It will allow us to make recommendations for the African Union and other countries to defeat the terrorism crisis.
Some of the most important points of discussion at the symposium included money laundering and forging official papers, which are the main terrorism tools, especially in the African continent.
When we talk about terrorism, we are talking about organized crime and money laundering. All these aspects are included in the discussion, and fighting them is a serious matter.
According to observers, in spite of the African countries' interest and will, they are not capable of stopping the destruction and crime resulting from this multi-source, widespread menace.
Well-known challenges facing North Africa currently involve the coordination between armed Islamic groups, smugglers, and criminals who use the internet. North African countries are not capable of fighting these criminal aspects. Symposiums like this one are supported by Western countries, which have mechanisms of fighting terrorism.
Coordination and collaboration and exchanging information as an early warning system to fight terrorism are some of the main points at the symposium. But from a practical standpoint, to what degree could this collaboration limit terrorism from spreading locally and internationally?
A British
Army spokesperson said that a U.S. helicopter opened fire at armed individuals in the city of Basra, based on a request by the Iraqi forces. Meanwhile, thousands of Sadr supporters protested in the city of Sadr and other areas in Baghdad and Basra. They called on lifting the heightened security measures and releasing those who have been arrested. The Sadr movement called for a large demonstration in Baghdad instead of Najaf city on the 9th of April, the 5th anniversary of the fall of Baghdad.
وفي هذه الأثناء قالت الأمم المتحدة أن المعارك التي استمرت أسبوعا.
According to the United Nations, more than 700 people have been killed and 1,500 injured in the week-long battle between Iraqi troops and armed individuals from the Sadr movement. The UN Humanitarian Coordinator for Iraq, David Scherer, said that even though life has returned to normal in Basra, where most of the clashes took place, the death toll could still rise.
هذا وأمر رئيس الوزراء العراقي نور المالكي اليوم بتجميد العمليات الأمنية.
Today, the Iraqi Prime Minister Noor al-Maliki ordered a freeze of security procedures that targeted militia members across Baghdad. Maliki said that this move is aimed at giving a chance to those who have repented and want to lay down their weapons. This freeze comes one day after a warning by Muqtada al-Sadr of launching revenge attacks if the arrest campaign targeting the Mahdi army does not stop.
على الصعيد الأمني قتل 20 عراقيا على الأقل وأصيب 60 بجروح في هجوم انتحاري.
On the security front, 20 Iraqis were killed and 60 injured in a suicide attack that targeted civilians participating in a funeral ceremony in the town of Saadiya in northern Baquba. According to a statement by the U.S. Army, one U.S. soldier was killed yesterday in an explosion that targeted his patrol in Baghdad, and another U.S. soldier was also killed by an explosive device that targeted his patrol in the center of Baghdad.
أيمن
al-Zawahiri, al-Qaeda's second-in-command, refused to comment on the relationship between al-Qaeda and Iran, which hosts several al-Qaeda leaders. In an audio recording, al-Zawahiri responded to questions that were published on internet sites connected to al-Qaeda. The websites announced that al-Qaeda's second-in-command will respond to people's questions. In his responses, al-Zawahiri did not give reasons on why al-Qaeda cells have not targeted Tel Aviv. He criticized Hamas for killing those who should not be killed, like the children in Israeli settlements hit by Al-Qassam rockets.
هل ما يتردد ذكره في بعض المحطات الإعلامية من وجود
The questioner, Ayman, asks, is there a relationship between Al-Qaeda and Iran, as some media sources claim? And if so, what are the reasons and aims of this relationship? And do the aims justify the means? The Hebrew channel says that the largest piece of evidence that there is a relationship between Al-Qaeda and Iran is that the so-called Saif al-Adl, who is one of the most prominent leaders in Al-Qaeda, is staying in Iran, directing operations and giving instructions from inside of Iran, according to the Hebrew channel. Does Saif al-Adl exist? What is his identity? And is he in fact in Iran willingly? I cannot answer any question about the location of Saif al-Adl.
وبمحض إرادته عن مكان سيف العدل فهو أمر لا أستطيع أن أوفيه به.
أشاد رئيس الوزراء نوري كامل المالكي بالتعاون الذي أبدته العشائر.
The Iraqi Prime Minister, Noor al-Maliki, praised the cooperation of the Iraqi tribes with the security forces to enforce security and stability in Basra. Al-Maliki made these statements during a press conference in the Prime Minister's headquarters, where he talked about the security achievements, especially in Basra and Baghdad.
كما وجدد رئيس الوزراء دعوته لكل الفصائل المعنية بإحلال الأمن.
The Prime Minister also invited all parties concerned with establishing security and stability in Iraq to cooperate with the authorities to enforce the rule of law, which will help the reconstruction efforts.
The Iraqi government, led by Prime Minister Noor al-Maliki, insists on establishing stability in different areas in the country after the charge of the night military operation achieved its objectives in ending the thefts and smuggling of weapons and oil byproducts. The Prime Minister praised the cooperation of the tribes in supporting the security agencies. Al-Maliki made these statements during a press conference that was held in the Prime Minister's headquarters.
The
government has shown its determination and persistence in maintaining security. The government also has shown that it can confront those who do not obey the law, regardless of where they live or who they are. The government believes that this is an Islamic and a national obligation that it must carry out to protect people's lives. In the past, women, religious leaders, doctors, and engineers were subjected to killing, kidnapping, and robbery. There was also sabotage and smuggling of Iraqi oil. They believe that they should live without a government.
The Prime Minister reiterated his invitation to all groups concerned with stability and safety to cooperate with the government. He stressed the need to respect all parties and tribes to establish national unity. After the charge of the night military operation, there was a realization that there are many ill intentions for the country.
The latest events show that there is strong national unity. I have always said the Iraqis will unite with one another if they are exposed to a real danger. Everyone supported the elected government, the law, and the firm and decisive security agencies. The gangs did not know that Iraq has changed and that the security agencies have developed and the political will has become strong. Some of the operations were carried out solely by the Iraqi forces.
On to the violence in Baghdad. The U.S. military says 4 of its soldiers were killed on March 26th
and in weekend clashes with insurgents. All these 4 soldiers were killed in the eastern parts of the capital, Baghdad, during that period. They were involved in an offensive against insurgents in the city. Since the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq in 2003, the Pentagon reports that more than 4,000 U.S. soldiers have been killed in Iraq.
Britain's Defense Secretary has announced that the UK will delay pulling some 1,500 troops out of Iraq due to the recent unrest in Basra. The decision represents a U-turn after Prime Minister Gordon Brown promised to reduce Britain's 41,100 strong occupation force by this spring. Roshan Mohammed Saleh has more from London.
It had been assumed that Britain was on the verge of withdrawing from Iraq. Prime Minister Gordon Brown pulled UK troops from the front line last year, withdrawing a 4,100 strong contingent to Basra airport. And last October he pledged to cut numbers to 2,500 by this spring, ahead of a presumed pullout by the end of the year. But last week things changed. Fighters loyal to a Shia cleric opposed to the US and British presence rose up in cities across southern Iraq. This in the wake of a crackdown by Iraqi government troops in Basra, which has huge oil riches. While the operation has been largely carried out by US forces and the Iraqi government, British forces have provided artillery support and air cover. And now the British authorities are saying UK troops are needed to give the Iraqi government direct assistance in that fight. The decision came on a day when Britain celebrated the role of its armed forces with spectacular military displays and parades. At a time when the role of the military is being questioned because of the unpopular Iraq and Afghanistan campaigns, the message from the government seemed clear. Britain has an effective military and is ready and willing to use it.
Today, we're seeing in Iraq and Afghanistan an amazing amount of heroics, bravery, steadfastness and professionalism for our armed forces. And of course that includes the Royal Air Force as well in their support to the ground forces and elsewhere.
So instead of withdrawing from Iraq, the British seemed as bogged down as ever in the country, with no clear exit strategy. A Foreign Office minister who was on a visit to Bahrain for talks with the country's Crown Prince made it clear that the British still aim to fight in Basra until the city is under Iraqi government control.
It's a very difficult thing to predict right now what's going to happen. Hopefully the end will come very soon, and hopefully Iraq can start behaving like any other country in the Gulf and start becoming prosperous and peaceful.
So Britain's occupation of Iraq remains a reality, as evidenced by its recent active role in the fighting in Basra. There were hopes last year, after Tony Blair's departure from power, that Gordon Brown would significantly reduce the number of troops in Iraq. But these hopes, for the moment at least, seem to have been dashed. Roshan Mohammed Saleh, Press TV, London.
Now on to Egypt. In our headlines, we told you that police there have arrested tens of Muslim Brotherhood supporters. And the details behind that is that thousands of the members and supporters of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood have rallied across the country against the government's recent move to bar the Brotherhood members from running in local elections.
Egyptian police have rounded up over 800 Brotherhood members over the past weeks. At least 148 of them would be candidates. The provinces of Garbia, Alexandria, Ismailia, Beharia, Sharqiya and Sohag were the scene of anti-government protests that in some areas turned violent when police used force to disperse the protesters. 11 members of the group have been injured in the protests. The crackdown comes as several other members of the opposition group, human rights activists, and other reform advocates are being tried at a military court. Muslim Brotherhood says the trial is aimed at diminishing the group's political prospects ahead of next month's election for more than 10,000 local council seats. Egyptian government has come under pressure at both national and international levels for blocking the candidacy of the Brotherhood members in the April 8 elections. Egypt's courts have upheld the candidacy of many of the Brotherhood members. The courts have issued hundreds of rulings ordering the government to allow them to run in the election. But Egyptian officials have ignored those rulings. Human Rights Watch has called the recent crackdown a shameless bid to fix the elections. The Brotherhood, which is Egypt's most powerful opposition group, renounced violence in the 1970s and has focused on charitable activities. Although the Muslim Brotherhood is banned in Egypt, it holds 1/5 of the seats in the lower house of parliament through members elected as independents.
It's an ambitious project and one that is causing much controversy. It's been dubbed Egypt's fourth pyramid, a huge irrigation and land reclamation venture in the desert known as the Toshka project. Well, it's been designed to create a place where Egyptian communities can live and farm the land. But critics say it's a huge waste of money. Well, the project begins at Lake Nasser near the border with Sudan. The Mubarak Central Pumping Station is used to siphon water out of the lake. That water is then funneled by the pump hundreds of kilometers into the desert west of the lake via a canal, turning arid desert into lush, fertile land. Well, the point of all of this is to create new farmland and also find a way of accommodating Egypt's booming population, which currently stands at nearly 80 million. Al Jazeera's Al-Iraqiya went to see the project and he sent us this report.
It's barren, arid desert just 100 kilometers north of the Egyptian-Sudanese border. But the Egyptian government hopes to turn it into an oasis. Promising to create a new valley for the Nile, President Mubarak gave the go-ahead to the Toshka project in 1997 with the goal of reclaiming 200,000 hectares. Today, the government dubs it Egypt's fourth pyramid, though questions over its viability have dogged the $1 billion project since its inception. This is the centerpiece of the Toshka project. It's one of the largest water pumping stations all over the world, capable of pumping up to 25 million cubic meters per day from Lake Nasser. The station stands as an island with most of its body under the water, a construction said to have expanded the boundaries of civil engineering. And with the help of Japanese expertise, it's all controlled from this room. A press of a button, and the water is pumped. In 2005, it began flowing into this 50-kilometer canal, named after the late Sheikh Zayed of the United Arab Emirates. Salah Riyad is the Toshka irrigation chief. He says it was the happiest moment in his life when birds swarmed over the canal, the first day water ran through.
This is a strategic project that will serve generations to come. Everything here is accurately calculated. We're building a new community to alleviate the crowding in the Nile Valley and reduce unemployment.
But almost everything about the project has been criticized from day one. The wisdom of irrigating the land in the hottest part of the country, the high cost versus limited profit, and diverting the water from the north.
It was a haphazard decision. There are many other areas in the western desert that are more suitable for agriculture. The Toshka area is largely a rocky terrain that is extremely dry. It's an area more suitable for industrial projects, not agriculture.
So far, only 3,200 hectares are planted in Toshka, the vast majority by the government. There is one foreign investor. Saudi Prince Al-Walid ibn Talal got 40,000 hectares at a token price of $10 each. With an investment worth $120 million, his kingdom company began transforming the terrain in 2000. So far, it's only planted 1% of the land.
We are facing all over the world price increase in all commodities from agriculture. And therefore, this project, for me, makes more and more sense in order to fulfill the requirement of Egypt and of the world.
In the meantime, many feel it's a long way to go before Egyptian taxpayers reap the benefit of this project. Al-Iraqiya, Al Jazeera, Toshka, South Egypt.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.